There comes a moment in every pursuit, whether it's in love, in friendship, or in business, when the balance of power shifts. You rarely see it coming. It doesn't thunder in like a storm. It creeps in quietly, cloaked and unseen. At first, you are the one pushing forward. You are the one showing up. You are the one investing. And it feels noble. It feels righteous. Because society has trained you to believe that giving endlessly is strength. That self-sacrifice is loyalty. That persistence is love. So you pour out your time, you pour out your attention, you pour out your effort. You convince yourself that each gesture is laying the foundation of something lasting. Trust, belonging, connection. But then, without warning, the ground shifts beneath you. The more you give, the less it counts, the less it matters. Your devotion, once met with warmth, is now treated like background noise, and the cracks begin to show. Replies that once came instantly now drag on for hours. Conversations that once burned bright now fizzle into vague, lifeless scraps. Calls that once sparked energy now go unanswered. You see these signs, but like a fool, you excuse them. They're busy. You're overthinking. Tomorrow will be better. Weak consolations for a truth you already know. This is no longer mutual. That whisper of doubt grows into a roar. Because what you face is not distance. It is power imbalance. Your effort has been devalued, your presence diminished. Giving without return does not forge bonds. It hollows you out. It turns strength into servitude. This is the silent coup, the turning point, and the naive miss it until they've bled themselves dry. The Machiavelli saw this clearly. They warned that one-sided devotion is not connection, it is slavery. Chains disguised as love. And when you ignore the warning signs, the delayed replies, the dull words, the vanished enthusiasm, you don't just risk losing the other person. You risk the annihilation of yourself. So if you've ever felt that ache in your chest, if you've ever realized your loyalty has turned invisible, if you've ever caught yourself begging for scraps of attention that used to be freely given, then you know the truth. The shift in dynamics is not tragedy. It is revelation. It is the mask being torn away, proof that what you believed was shared was never equal, and the bitterest truth of all, the imbalance is not always their doing. Sometimes it is yours, born from the delusion that giving endlessly would eventually make you indispensable, that drowning yourself in effort would force them to care. It never does. Because in this world, power flows to those who master restraint, to those who know when to stop feeding what is already dead, and to those ruthless enough to walk away when the exchange is no longer equal, not just to protect themselves, but to command respect, influence, and control wherever they turn. There's a dangerous illusion that enslaves the weak, the belief that consistency is always strength. They cling to this lie like children clutching a broken toy. They tell themselves that showing up first, chasing endlessly, proving their devotion is noble. But it isn't. It's cowardice disguised as loyalty. It's fear wrapped in ritual. Fear of being forgotten, fear of being overlooked, fear of facing the brutal truth. They were never valued in the first place. And so the pathetic pursuit begins. They convince themselves they are loyal, committed, devoted. But loyalty without reciprocity isn't loyalty. It's dependence. It's servitude. They aren't chasing love or respect. They're chasing reassurance. They're begging for proof of their own worth. And here is the humiliation. The more they chase, the less they exist. Pursuit places the other on a throne, often without them even asking for it. And in their desperation, they kneel. Every unanswered call becomes an altar. Every ignored message becomes a prayer. And the silent declaration screams, "You are above me. I need you more than you need me." Human nature crushes such weakness. What is freely offered without demand becomes taken for granted. What is taken for granted becomes background noise. And what fades into background noise ceases to exist. This is why chasing is suicide. It doesn't just strip you of their respect. It robs you of your own. The Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. They knew that over-investing in others without boundaries is not love. It is surrender. Marcus Aurelius warned, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." And yet, when you chase, you abdicate that power. You trade sovereignty for scraps of attention, and here lies the cruel paradox. The harder you chase, the faster they retreat. Not because they are cruel, but because the human mind despises abundance and worships scarcity. What is constant is invisible. What is rare is revered. So the more you flood them with effort, the more irrelevant you become. The more you prove your devotion, the more it ceases to be a gift and becomes nothing but noise.
Hey guys, we're Wisdom, based in Abu Dhabi. We use AI tools to make these concepts come to life, but it's our amazing team who goes deep, breaking down powerful philosophical ideas and showing how they really apply in everyday life. We hope you enjoyed today's content.
This is the trap of chasing. You think you are fighting for love, when in truth you are abandoning yourself. And here is the final lesson. Mastery of restraint is not passive. It is conquest. By refusing to chase, you declare, "I am the prize. I am the center of gravity." Those who understand this truth stop orbiting others and begin pulling others into their orbit. That is the line between servitude and sovereignty. That is the difference between being forgotten and being unforgettable. Epictetus once wrote, "It is not things that disturb us, but our opinions about things." Understand this. It isn't their silence that wounds you, not the delayed reply, not the cold distance, not the unanswered call. The sting doesn't come from their action. It comes from the pathetic meaning you attach to it. You twist silence into rejection. You twist indifference into proof of your unworthiness. You hand them the pen and beg them to write the story of your value. That is the real humiliation. Not what they do, but what you decide it means. And when you play this game long enough, you commit the ultimate betrayal. Emotional outsourcing. Your inner world begins to orbit around someone else's reactions. Their approval becomes your peace. Their attention becomes your validation. Their absence becomes your collapse. This is not love. It is not respect. It is dependency. It is surrender. It is self-inflicted slavery. The Machiavelli knew better. They understood that freedom doesn't come from chaining others to your will. Freedom is forged by chaining your own mind, your own emotions, your own narrative under your command. Machiavelli too saw the same truth, in bloodier form. He watched rulers fall, not because of armies, but because of perception. The weak allow others to dictate their worth. The moment you let another control your self-image, the throne is gone. So learn this. It is not their silence that destroys you. It is your weakness in letting that silence define you. Withdraw that power. Seize it back. Rule yourself first, because when your stability no longer bends to their reaction, you become dangerous. You become unpredictable. You cannot be manipulated, and that shift, that ruthless reclamation of self-sovereignty, is the foundation of domination. Rule your inner kingdom, and the outer world will kneel. We were raised on a lie, a story whispered through films, through books, through tired advice. Fight for what you love. Never give up. Prove yourself through effort, and it sounds noble, romantic, brave. But it is poison. Here is the reality the world hides. Effort has value only when it is matched. Loyalty has weight only when it is returned. Otherwise, your devotion is not love. It is desperation, dressed in poetry. You can sprint with everything you have. Pour your soul into another. But if they are crawling, or worse, standing still, the gap only widens, and the harder you push, the more irrelevant you become. This is the paradox. In trying to prove your worth, you erase it. You don't shine brighter. You vanish. You become background noise, an echo in the place you most wanted to matter. And that invisibility, to be unseen by the one you long for, is a wound deeper than rejection. It is annihilation. The Machiavelli warned of this weakness. They knew that giving without return is not strength. It is betrayal of the self. Marcus Aurelius cautioned against scattering energy where it is neither needed nor valued. To waste your essence on barren ground is not noble. It is pathetic. Culture preaches endless effort, fight for love at any cost, but wisdom, real wisdom, speaks otherwise. If your fight requires abandoning yourself, it is not love. It is servitude. True connection does not demand exhaustion. It does not beg. It does not chase. It advances toward you as you advance towards it. It mirrors your movement with equal force. Anything less is not closeness. It is collapse. And here lies the lesson of power. The one who exhausts themselves loses. The one who withholds, who measures, who demands balance, commands. To master this restraint is to ensure you are never ignored, never invisible, never disposable. It is the difference between begging for scraps and feasting at the head of the table. Silence. It looks simple, passive, harmless. But silence, when wielded with intention, is one of the sharpest blades in human connection. Stepping back is not cruelty, it is clarity. It is the moment you stop groveling for space that should have been given freely. It is the recognition that withdrawal is not punishment. It is protection, protection of your peace, your dignity, your energy. And here is why silence cuts deeper than words. People are addicted to predictability. They expect your replies. They expect your explanations. They expect you to patch the cracks with apologies, defenses, and proof that you still care. When you step back, when you replace noise with stillness, you shatter that expectation. You rip away the script they relied on. You deny them control, and suddenly, what once felt ordinary becomes haunting. Here is the brutal truth of human nature. Consistency is invisible. What is always present is quietly dismissed. What vanishes becomes unbearable. At first, they don't miss you. They miss the feeling you gave them. The warmth, the validation, the certainty that they were wanted. Your presence was their comfort. Your absence becomes their torment. That absence forces them to confront themselves, to face the void without the cushion of your energy. And in that void, their indifference is exposed for what it always was. This is why silence holds power. Not because it manipulates, but because it unmasks. It forces reality to speak. The Machiavelli understood. Stillness is not weakness. It is wisdom. A refusal to waste energy where it is not honored. So when you choose silence, know this. You are not retreating. You are reclaiming. You are returning to yourself. And in that return, you become untouchable, stronger, clearer, more formidable than any plea or explanation could ever make you. Silence is not escape. Silence is strategy. And in the battlefield of human connection, silence is the weapon that makes them hear you loudest. Silence does not just create space, it creates a mirror. And the first reflection it throws back is regret. Without your presence, without your warmth, without your constant attention, they don't miss you. They miss the experience you gave them, the comfort of being chosen, the certainty of being seen, the quiet assurance that no matter how little they offered, you would always give more. When that luxury is withdrawn, the unease begins. At first, it's subtle, a faint disturbance, a whisper of loss. But as silence stretches, the whisper becomes a roar, and then their imagination betrays them. They replay old conversations, scavenging for clues. They wonder what you must be thinking now that you've gone dark. They torment themselves with questions they never once considered. Did I push too far? Did I lose something I never valued enough? Are they truly finished with me? This is the cruelty of silence. Their suffering does not come from what you said, but from what you refused to say. Their own mind becomes the executioner. Withdrawal shifts the balance of power. Before, they dictated the tempo with indifference. Their distance set the tone. But silence strips that control away. Without your constant reaction, the narrative fractures, the script is gone, and uncertainty invades. And uncertainty is the most destabilizing force of all. Anger they can prepare for, conflict they can brace against, but silence? Silence leaves them naked, helpless, defenseless. The Machiavelli knew this. True control is not about domination by force, but refusal to be dominated. When you starve the cycle of your energy, it collapses under its own weight. And in that collapse, the one who once overlooked you begins to unravel. Not because you punished them, not because you schemed to manipulate, but because absence, wielded with intent, is louder than presence ever was. Silence is not retreat. It is siege. It is not escape. It is conquest. And when you master it, you no longer chase, beg, or prove. You force the world to wonder where it stands with you. The hardest war you will ever fight is not with them. It is with yourself. When you first pull back, it feels wrong. It feels like surrender, like failure, like you abandoned something that could have been saved if only you had bled more, begged more, endured longer. That is the lie of weakness. The heart confuses absence with loss. It confuses boundaries with betrayal, and so grief arrives, but not grief for them. The grief is for a former self, the version of you who believed that endless giving would finally make you worthy. That version who texted first, explained too much, sent silence-breaking messages just to prove you still existed. That version served its purpose. It kept you alive. But it was not built for peace. It was built for pursuit, and pursuit only leads to exhaustion. Here the Machiavelli blade cuts deep. Silence, chosen with intention, is not cruelty. It is not weakness. It is not punishment. It is a boundary, a locked gate of self-respect. Silence does not scream, "I don't care." It whispers, "I will not beg for what should have been freely given." Every time you resist the urge to chase, you reclaim power. The power you once scattered like loose coins. Power that can now be invested in growth, in clarity, in mastery. Yes, the internal battle feels heavy. It feels unnatural, but every day you endure it, you sharpen yourself. Every day you hold that silence, you harden. Until one day the truth strikes you, it was never about losing them. It was about conquering yourself. And once you conquer the self, you hold the foundation of all power. The ability to withdraw, to withhold, to starve others of your presence until they chase you. That is the pivot. That is the ascension, from servant to sovereign. Every time you give someone your attention, you hand them something more precious than gold. Attention is not mere focus. It is presence. It is energy. It is validation. It is the silent but undeniable decree. You matter. But here lies the danger. When attention is scattered freely, endlessly, without restraint, it rots. What was once a gift becomes routine. What was once powerful becomes ordinary. What was once rare becomes invisible. And human nature is merciless in this. We stop noticing what never leaves. We stop valuing what costs us nothing. We stop respecting what is always available. The light you poured into them becomes static, background noise, forgotten. This is why scarcity rules. Just like currency, attention gains weight only when it is rare. People do not honor what flows to them without effort. They worship what demands cost. Withdraw, restrict, ration. When you stop bleeding attention into unworthy hands, when you choose to invest it sparingly, selectively, with calculation, something shifts. Your attention hardens into power. It ceases to be casual. It becomes sacred, and sacred things are magnetic. When you finally decide where your gaze lands, when you deliberately allow someone the privilege of your presence, they feel it. It carves into them. They know your focus is no longer cheap. It is earned. It is deliberate, and that makes it irresistible. The Machiavelli understood this. Marcus Aurelius warned against letting the mind be stolen by trivialities, knowing that focus is life's most precious resource. Machiavelli saw the same truth in power. Rulers never wasted their presence on those who did not matter, because presence itself was authority. So mark this well. Attention is currency. Spend it recklessly, and you bankrupt yourself. Guard it, and its value multiplies. The weak chase with free attention. The powerful make their attention a throne others must climb to reach. The moment you understand this, you stop chasing, you stop begging, you stop scattering yourself like loose change. Because now you know the truth. Your attention was never meant to be free. Silence does something words never can. It reflects. When you stop explaining, stop proving, stop chasing, you raise a mirror. And in that mirror, they are forced to see themselves. They see the calls they ignored. They see the messages they dismissed. They see the devotion they consumed without ever returning. Words can be twisted, denied, deflected. But silence? Silence is undeniable. It does not argue. It exposes. And what it exposes is uncomfortable, brutal. For the first time, they face a version of themselves stripped bare. The neglect, the indifference, the arrogance of assuming you would always remain. Deprived of your effort, your reassurance, your presence. They are left with nothing but their own reflection, and reflections are merciless. But mark this well. Their discomfort is not your burden. It is not your guilt to shoulder. It is not your duty to soften. It is justice. The natural consequence of imbalance correcting itself. You poured, they drained, you gave. They expected, you showed up. They took for granted. Silence severs that chain. It withdraws the fuel that kept their comfort alive. And in that withdrawal, they are forced to confront the truth. Who they really were when they believed they would never lose you. The Machiavelli understood this. Truth does not need to be shouted. It does not need to be explained. It reveals itself when you stop shielding others from it. This is the power of the silent mirror. It does not beg. It does not punish. It does not manipulate. It simply reflects. And that reflection alone is enough to unmake them.
Thanks for spending time in this. If this sparked a new way of thinking, hit like and subscribe to keep the ideas flowing. And don't forget, check the description for the links to the resources and the original books we used today. We'll see you in the next one.